Warning. The following scenes may contain references to power pages and portals which some listeners may find disturbing, especially if you've struggled with poor training in the past.
Hey all, Franco Musso here. Yes, I packed your podcast feed. I held John and Heather hostage, but don't worry. I got my wires crossed and I'm actually paying them a small ransom in the form of sponsorship. Anyway, big announcement. I'm finally releasing my online Power Pages course. This has been 5+ years in the making. It's tried and tested on citizen devs and portal makers all around the world. It's the course I wish existed when I was getting started. It's practical, it's hands-on, and it's project-based, so you're not left wondering, how the f*** would this apply to the real world? I've built in battle-tested lessons I've learned from tens of successful portal projects across various industries, budgets, and geographies. And I've formulated the most efficient route from zero to heroic launch. The tools and techniques I've chosen to show you are all based on what has the most value to you, the learner, and to your customers, all in the most compressed timeline possible. Think 80-20, focusing on the techniques that punch above their weight and deliver the majority of results. You'll get video lessons, a repeatable framework, and some super helpful workbooks. I'll also throw in my decision flows. It's going to be the closest thing you can get to having an expert on hand or being able to peek over my shoulder while I work. Interested? Visit francomusso.com/power-pages-course and secure your spot today. Disclaimer, this course isn't for you if you prefer hours of slides, theory, and little to no action. You can now take your fingers out of your ears and enjoy the awesome that is Sprint Zero.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Sprint Zero podcast.
Yeah.
With me, John Russell, and my glorious co-host, Heather Perriam, who is a little bit plaguey.
Just a little bit.
Sorry, Heather. Hope you feel better soon.
Right.
Today on the Sprint Zero podcast, we're joined by someone who many of you would have seen speaking at user groups and Power Platform events across the UK. Duncan Boyne.
Hello. It's good to be here.
Thanks, man. Duncan is the founder of the Norwich Power Platform user group and the inaugural East of England Power Platform Summit, which is coming up in May this year. Expect to hear more of that later. Duncan is a Power BI and Power Platform consultant who specializes in taking messy, real-world data and turning it into something people can actually trust and use. He's led data visualization and Power BI strategy work, helped organizations modernize and how they work with data, and he's a familiar face in the Power Platform community.
So we're going to dig into his journey, the realities of building data solutions that actually land, the state of AI and BI, and of course, we've got an uncomfortable corner question lined up for him too. So Duncan, welcome to Sprint Zero.
Thank you. Honored to be here.
Here's your favorite question of the day. No, it's not, but it'll get us started anyway. Who are you and how did you end up a Power BI kind of guy?
Who are you? Sorry, I work in memes.
Oh, I
only,
wanted to sing,
so...
but I don't do that well. So I'm glad that we could all pick it up though.
No, it's a very old school British meme about Jade Goody saying it to someone. Not in good taste either. Actually, like, who even is she? Who are you?
I went a different
No, sorry.
I'm gonna have to look that up.
Oh, don't. It's not a good one.
Well, now I have to, Duncan.
It just sticks.
Look what you've done.
I know. This is how my brain works. I hear auditory that tells and it makes me want to say something like, I'll do it. And I kind of have to do that in a business sense sometimes and not speak my mind. But how am I? Who am I? Why am I here? Why am I in BI? I think my answer is probably the same as a lot of people who are in tech, but specifically in the Power Platform, and I kind of fell into it. I had an earlier career in finance. I worked in the banking sector, specifically mortgages. Always had a love for IT. Eventually got a support role as my first role, and then I really, really enjoyed SQL because it's data, it's numbers. I've always been used to that. And then Power BI just came from that, of actually talking about the data. And I've been working with it so long that it was a Excel add-on to begin with, under a completely different name. So too long is probably the answer for that. I kept very quiet through most of my career, and then I began working for a Microsoft partner and wanted to learn more about the Power Platform in general, not just stick in my lane of Power BI. So decided to have a look on LinkedIn, Stack Overflow and stuff, met some wonderful people, and then at the end of 2024, I kind of put myself out there and wanted to be part of this lovely eco-verse of Power Platform. And I've had so many conversations over the years, but it's such a unique community for Power Platform. Everyone is about knowledge sharing. Everyone wants to help each other.
Yeah.
People do not cling on to information; they share it.
I
And
think
I've loved
that
every
was
second.
I think that was the first thing that really struck me on, especially coming from like corporate America into the UK, right? And then I come to this Power Platform community and I'm like, people want to help me. Like, and it took me a minute, right? Because at first I was like, I don't want to ask them because I'm basically asking them to give away their secrets. And they're like, no, Heather, I spent hours and days figuring this out. Why would I want you to do it when I already know? Let me share it with you. And it was like, I love this place. I love it here. And now we all get to do the same, right?
Yeah, exactly. And specifically for like my area, like I run obviously the Norfolk Power Platform User Group and the East of England, is because in our little bit of the UK, it's very segregated. As in, from a location point of view, like I've always joked that it takes me less time to go to an Amsterdam user group than it would be to any other user group in the country because of just where we are geographically.
Yeah.
Coincidentally, I met my co-founder while giving a talk in Scotland. He's like, "You're from Norwich too, aren't you?" I was like, "Yeah." And then we started one because we didn't have to want to go all the way to Scotland to give a talk or to do
But
something.
you live in this part of the country where we don't say all the consonants. And then that bugs me because I'm like, have to practice like Norfolk. Norfolk doesn't, I don't say all the letters in that. And then I say to my husband, oh, I'm going to go to Norwich. And he starts laughing and he's like, it's Norwich, Heather, it's Norwich. And I'm like, so I don't know what it is. Is that just
English
a thing
language
up there?
replacement is a pig.
I really want to show you some of the names for little villages around here because they are wild and they are really difficult to get and they are fantastic. In fact, like
Yeah, go on. I think you should spell one out, and then Heather's got to try and say it. Well, we both say it.
can I send it in the chat?
Yeah, you
Can I
can
do
send it
that?
in the chat. Yeah,
Let's
go on then.
see.
Yeah.
Do we have it? I
Bam.
didn't even know we
Yeah,
had a
there
chat.
is, yeah.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah. So it's there in the chat. WYMUNDHAM.
Wyndham?
Yes. What the hell?
I
Everyone
love
says why London. How did you actually get it right? You're cheating.
Hatburg.
You Googled it.
because you know what? I just remembered, I was like, it's got to be something funny like Mister, Lester, Toaster, right? Where we just
Yeah.
don't say all of these letters. So I was like, if I wasn't going to say all the letters, what would I say? And that's how I did it. Now the other one, John, what's that other?
I think it's
HAPP,
Habsburg
HAPPL, or is that IS? ISBURGH.
or Habsburg, maybe one of those two.
I would
Go
call
on.
it Happyburg. That's like very
Do
American.
you know what? It's Haysborough, which you know you can definitely get from that spelling.
Oh
But
my
yeah,
goodness.
I like Wymondham, which I like. It's obviously Wyndham, but I like to call it Wymondham and Happysburg because that sounds nice. But yeah, it's
I just
Haysborough.
going to say Happysburg from now on. I hope I get a client there.
There's a guy that used to go on 8 out of 10 cats called Jazz Emu. Have you ever heard of him?
Yes.
I'll send it to you later. He does an amazing YouTube video of pronunciation in the UK. Yeah, seriously, Heather, if you've not seen that, make sure you're wearing double pants because you probably wet yourself when you read it. So
I was not expecting a double pants message today.
That's
moving
amazing.
swiftly on. Duncan, you've talked about helping organizations move from we have data to we trust our data. What does that journey actually look like in the real world, and what changes when people really trust their data? And actually a follow-up to that, what makes someone distrust their data apart from it being wrong, which is obvious? Like, what can contribute to that dissatisfaction in data clarity?
There are so many levels to this question.
Yeah,
so many levels, and I want to give a really in-depth and broad answer to this, but it's easier probably to attack each point as it comes. So the distrust I'll start with, because that is the reason these things go wrong. This is the reason that Power BI implementations go wrong. That's why reporting goes wrong. The problem with data, how we've reported on it historically, and this happens in small businesses and big businesses, is that there is not a singular point of truth most of the time. You'll have finance departments with 50,000 different Excel documents. They all take what numbers they want from it, give it to their CFO. The CFO gives it to the board. And it's normally handed down Excel documents that the people who made them no longer work there. And they were made 15 years ago. And the only changes that ever get made to them is when they have to fix the macros. And then when you come in and tell them, here's Power BI, I've done the data, I know the database, I've worked with your front end, I've spoken to people that input data, this is your singular point of truth. And then it doesn't match anything they've ever done before. And they've either got to admit to themselves, maybe we've done it wrong, or the new guy that's come in and said all of this is a liar. Which one of those is more convenient? Obviously, with that, I've worked in a lot of different businesses and come across that. I managed to get around that in a lot of places and show them the pathway to their data and how it actually is their singular point of truth and why it's their singular point of truth. But often it is then convincing people, hey, you've just spent the last 5 years working with this thing that no longer actually fits its purpose and is incorrect. And then it's the narrative, okay, you've built a report. Can I take it back into Excel and prove it? You can. But again, as soon as you take it out, you've lost that singular point of truth. Whenever you manipulate the data in the front end, in Excel or however people, it's always Excel. People aren't using Google Sheets in businesses.
No. It's always Excel.
No. Yeah. You're losing that truth. Like, yes,
So-
you can go on.
No, I just got really excited because what do you do when somebody's like, because like my journey into Power Platform includes a large amount of time being the geek in the office who built the really cool Excel spreadsheet that everybody loves, right? And nobody can figure out how it works and blah, 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 blah. And then when you're that person, you get really possessive of it, don't you? Where you're like, but my spreadsheet is cooler than anything you can build Power BI.
Yeah.
So what do you do when that happens? When somebody's like, but I love my toy and I love my macro and nobody else knows how to fix it.
Take it from their dead cold hands.
Nice.
No, it's about enabling it because often, yes, people are very possessive. They're very proud of it. But I normally take it from a way of like, how much time do you spend answering questions about it? Oh, too much time. How many times have you been interrupted doing your actual work to go and look at this and try and fix it? On those times. So what about if I could make it easy, graphical, on a Power BI report, you don't have to talk about it anymore. Oh, actually, no, I want to give it up. It's about, you kind of have to do it from like a business perspective. Like, how much time am I going to save you? How many less interactions can I give you? How much more time can I give you giving your actual job? No, I live and breathe talking about my Excel. I want to do all this. And so, well, you should probably have my job then. Come and work with Power BI. Like, if that's what your actual passion is, come and change careers and you'll enjoy it from the other perspective.
Yeah.
But it's a negotiation constantly. You're selling the allure of digital virtualization rather than not graphical virtualization rather than numbers just on a spreadsheet. Like, don't get me wrong, I love a spreadsheet. The reason I'm in data really is because I'm obsessed with numbers and how things work. Big fan of the Football Manager games, which are all run on databases, and it's just a graphical interface on top of the database. And a lot of turn-based games like Pokemon, which is all just a big database with numbers in it and a lot thing, which is kind of D&D with an animal on the front of it.
I'm Magic
totally
the
honest.
Gathering here, so same thing, right?
I'm obsessed with all of the card games. Yes.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah, absolutely.
So sorry, Duncan, going back to that distrust question then, because sometimes you get like a kind of feeling, don't you, about the data? Like I remember I'm not going to say exactly where I worked, but I worked somewhere a long time ago, and my job was to look at quality of service metrics. And one of these metrics was like the quality of the playback and whether or not there was any buffered sessions. And I was looking at this graph, and it was like 100% all the time. Like the whole time it was just 100%. So that meant that the people that were doing whatever they were doing were not dropping or not buffering at any point, and they hadn't been for the last 3 months. So I did some digging, realized that there was a deployment that happened 3 months before. And before that, it was reporting between like 90 and 95%. And then all of a sudden it jumped to 100. So I said to the team lead who was looking after that bit of the business, I'm pretty sure you've done something here in that deployment, which is either faking your buffering results, or there's a bug that is just not reporting it properly. And he just wouldn't have it. He just wouldn't have it. And I said, but it's been going on for 3 months, and you're going into these VP sessions saying that our platform is 100% stable. It can't be. It's not possible. And he's like, and I had this to and fro with him for ages. So, and that was just because I kind of got an inkling that there was something wrong. Do you think, like CIOs or CEOs, when they're looking at dashboards high level, do you think there are people that can see that data and just think, no, there's something wrong? Or do they, that's the question. How do they know? I think it's intuition, and how close they are to their products and what they're doing. But sorry, that's a very long question, but I think you understand what I'm saying.
That's fine. You kind of answered it as well. Is the people that are close to the business and have an intuition for it. If they know they roughly sell £10 million worth of products a year, and I'm showing them one that they sell 15, that's a big jump for them. And it's often I find, and this sort of a multi-answer again, like I'm currently working on a bit of a talk/workshop thing, best way to describe it, with Franco Musso, obviously sponsors the podcast.
Yay, thank God.
Look at that. Nice plug though, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll see if he watches in case he comments. If he doesn't comment, then we know he doesn't watch it.
And his lovely daughter Lou, who does the editing, by the way. So
yeah, absolutely.
Look at that. Keep it in the family. About doing things to make your data AI ready and using Power BI to show if your data is ready for AI. So why I bring that up is because a lot of the time when I'm doing a new project with someone, I always talk about we can build a dashboard to show where your data doesn't look great based on a number of different things. Like I was talking, an example I was giving with Franco, because we were talking the other day at the user group where I met Heather for the first time.
Sorry, we had to give a shout out to that too.
It
was amazing.
If you sell 1,000 products and they're all £1 each, and you've got one product that sold for £100, is that actually a product sold for £100, or did someone put the decimal place in the wrong place?
Yeah.
Like it's showing you the outliers in your data to make sure they're correct. Some service businesses and businesses that work on project things, their scale is also going to be different because every project is different. But if you are a brick and mortar shop, if you are a manufacturing company and you do a lot of the same things, the outliers are going to be more obvious. It also can depend on lots of different things. If you're doing year-on-year analysis and like every January they roughly sell £1 million and then this year they sold 10 million, you highlight it. And then they might say, oh no, it's just a really good month. It's fine. Okay, that's your data. You understand it. Like that makes sense to you. If not, during the build process, I'm talking if I'm working externally, talking to my key contact, or if it's internally, talking to the people who use it. Why does this look different than the rest of them? It's because we actually had a sale on and we got those new customers, or we bought another business at that point and it's all their revenue that's coming. Okay, that makes sense. Or, yeah, that's not right. We need to look at this. And then let the users who use that part find where the data is wrong in their side. The most challenging bit about bad data sometimes is saying it's your front end users that are doing it wrong. It's systemic. You need training. That is always the hardest thing to get. If it's one bit of erroneous data and you're like, oh, someone made a mistake here, let's fix it quickly. Perfect. Like everyone's happy. When there needs to be a cultural switch. The people who are accepting of change and want the best of their businesses jump straight at that. The people who then get weary about it, it's like, well, that's actually a lot of work, this, that, and the other, are happy to only know 90% of the truth. And I think that says a lot about a team if they're not willing to think about the bigger picture and they're just to coast with what they've got. Which obviously that statement calls a lot of people out. That's an uncomfortable truth. But it's one that you have to deliver if you're being honest with your own work. Data doesn't lie.
Data doesn't lie. That was a very young Heather had that lesson taught to her by, in hindsight, a very good boss who gave me some very good, important lessons, but I didn't appreciate it at the time because I was very passionate that I was correct. And he was like, the data doesn't lie, Heather. So, but I want to shift topics a little bit, if that's okay.
Of course.
okay, I want to talk about this East of England Power Platform Summit that you have helped create. I know that John's been a part of that. And we're going to have the very first one in May, first weekend in May, which is really super exciting. I just want to know a little bit, Duncan, how have you found this process? Has the learning curve for this, has that been a steep learning curve, or how has it gone so far?
It's an infinite learning curve. It's going like that constantly. It's probably
Wow.
aged me a good 5 years in not a lot of time. No. So it's the whole idea of not knowing what you don't know. Like, I'm
Yeah.
going with my best efforts. The team are amazing. We've all had shared experiences of going to other events and everything. And we just we wanted something for this region, but we also wanted something that was community first. There's nothing wrong with a paid conference. There's nothing wrong with a conference doing it for profit. They've all served their own purpose, but we wanted one run by the community for the community. And that's the short and breadth of it. That's why we partnered with the Mentoring Hub very early on. The whole agenda of wanting to help people in this space and do it in a way that is positive. There's no like positive or negative discrimination. There's no just because you know someone. We did our speaker selection anonymously. The selection panel was a 50-50 mix of men and women. I've got some data to post closer to the event that shows that like the biases that people have, like unconscious biases that we have from text, and like that ironically men picked men and women picked women, like more on average. And that's from pure raw data that you couldn't
Amazing.
tell who was who. And it's an interesting thing like that. And I don't think enough events in our space are that honest, because it's difficult, because I'm a utopianist. Like, I'm very much humans are humans. We're all exactly the same, no matter what, really. Unless you take away someone else's rights or you hurt them, then you are the same as everyone else. Like, I'm very much countries are just lines drawn in the sand with a stick. Like, and it was thousands of years ago that people did that. Like, I'm a human from Earth. I'm not British. I'm not. Which it obviously divides people, and it's everyone's allowed their own opinion. So in the same way, I just want people to come to my event.
Yeah.
Yes.
I want people. Like, robots are allowed. We're in the age of AI. They can come too, but like, I just want people. There is actually a dog coming as well, but that's another side story. But yeah, I'm not explaining that here. There will be a dog at some point. Which has now probably piqued people's interest. See, I'm a salesperson. Like,
You are a
could see a dog.
salesperson. I think it's interesting because we met actually in person at the Manchester AI user group, didn't we? And you heard I had some passionate comments about bringing women into our space, and I've had I would say it's so much better now, right? And it's so much better now than it was 15 years ago, where I was asked to like get coffee and take notes because that's what the limits of my abilities were. And I wish I was making that up, but it was like for real, right? But I still, every single day, there's something, some type of microaggression that comes at me, and most people don't realize they're doing it. And one of the things I always say is, nobody in some odd number of years of working has ever said to me, "We made this decision to marginalize you because you're a woman," right? Nobody has ever said this marginalizing decision because
And do you think
you're a
that
female.
do you think that's because it's subconscious? And
Yeah, they don't know.
they're doing
I don't get me wrong. There's assholes. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that word.
Yeah,
Somebody will
yeah.
edit it
No,
out if
like
I can't.
it. All good.
There's
Sorry.
assholes that are like, they just completely don't think. I have had men in interviews tell me they don't like women managers because we're too emotional, right?
Lord.
I have, like, in an interview, you guys, I've had customers who have escalated. I get on the phone as a supervisor. Oh, I'm sorry. Can I please speak to a man? Because this is a real technical issue. So there are some people out there who are just blatant jerk
Wow.
faces. But most people, when a microaggression takes place, I think they'd be devastated to realize what they've done. I don't think they realize they've done it, right? And I've done it, I probably have done it to women and didn't realize it at the time because I had to, as a woman in this space, we have to conquer our own like internalized issues, right? Because we don't always realize there's room for all of it. But anyway, I guess my whole point, as I digress into all of this, most people don't know. And it's getting things like data that says, hey, guess what? Women picked women, men picked men, even though it was anonymized and we couldn't tell what the gender was of the submitter. We need to see that. Okay. Because then, especially when we're in AI, how do we spot that bias in our AI? How do we, one of the first pieces I gave to Microsoft and the designer was when I put in, make me a picture of a software developer. I couldn't get it to do a woman at all. I couldn't, unless I told it to, it wouldn't do it. Right. So how do we take these lessons? I think what you're doing is so important, Duncan, because now we take these lessons and say, because somebody like John will feel horrible. Like, how did I pick only men? That doesn't feel like me. I would never do that on purpose, right? So what was that unconscious bias?
So it was actually difficult to do in the first place because there's so many layers to this. So like the whole, and I want to say the first thing, the people who are just rude to your face and be like, can I speak to a man because I don't trust you? They are actually sometimes easier to deal with than people that don't know they're doing. Because if you are at least honest about being an arsehole, at least I can accept you are as an arsehole. If you think you're good, but are actually being subconsciously bad, you are harder to deal with. Sometimes that is the thing, but that's another point. So, the unconscious bias, I was going to use sessionizers anonymization, but that gives the person a male or a female name. It like how you would play Cluedo, like it could give you Colonel Mustard or such and such and such and such. That's still an identifier that could be unconsciously done. So I changed everything to person A and person B, or person A, B, and C, or however it was done. Most of the time, people didn't speak about themselves. Most of the time when they were in a solo talk, they just wrote. If they were doing a joint talk, they said this person and this person. So I changed it to person A and person B. And tried to take any gender-specific words, as in she will be doing this, or he will be doing this, or him, or take all of them out as much as possible to do it. And it was such a weird experience. And how do I put it? Like even reading some of them, because I could see everything. I was on the selection committee. I sterilized the data. I took everything in and then gave it to the selection committee. It was such an experience because
you stood back. You stood out of it and didn't make any selections.
Because he was so close to the data.
Yeah, because someone had to look at it from that point of view. And because not a lot of people read, and it's no detriment to anyone that was actually doing it, we are a completely self-funded event. So we're not paying anything for travel or accommodation for all of our speakers because, frankly, we're putting on the event for people. Some events happen like that, like the Manchester one we just did is exactly the same. Some conferences pay for people to go. And we had a lot of people apply who then later realised they didn't check that information. It's like, oh, I can't come. Yes, I'd love to come and speak, but I live in America and will not self-fund for that. Completely fine. I've just turned one down doing one in Vegas because there was no funding. I did read it. They said there could be exceptions made. I asked if I could have a section. They said no, which is fine. But I had to ask the question. So I was the admin of the data and then gave it to the selection team to actually do. So,
very good.
And I know, because I was kind of quite close to you in that process. And I know, and I could tell that it was pretty hardcore for those few days when you were sorting that out. So I really appreciate the amount of work that you did, but I still think there'll be unconscious things that are in the text potentially, or how things are written. That kind of like may kind of lead more to a man or a woman of writing it. But it's a very tricky one. I think one of the biggest things that I learned recently, and I think it was when we were doing that International Women's Day Sprint Zero podcast, I think it was either you, Heather, or Emma, said that women like to be asked
Yes.
to speak rather
Yes.
than rather than submitting. And I wonder if there's some merit there for future events where it is tricky, isn't it? It is difficult because you kind of want everybody to apply for things. But it is nice to be asked as well, right? And
So
It
you
is
know
nice to
what,
be asked,
John?
but doesn't, I was going to say that, doesn't that go back to women having to ask permission to be present? Isn't that just then a further bias of how our society has been?
That we
yeah,
feel like this. And you know, it's so funny because it just clicked in my head. Sorry, I won't die on the call. I'm trying really hard not to die during this.
Played.
But John, we haven't had any women submit to be on Sprint Zero as on their own since we've relaunched.
no, we haven't. No, that's true.
Not one.
Yeah.
But the men
I-
have,
Yeah,
right? And then
that's true.
so when I was at the Manchester user group, when I did my session on accessibility, I did a little Sprint Zero plug at the end because nobody told me I could not. And I said, like, if you've ever wanted to be on a podcast and you don't know if you're the right person for it, just apply to Sprint Zero because we're kind of for everybody, right? And John and I had a big talk about how we're for the community, by the community. We want nobody to feel like they're not enough for Sprint Zero. Come on. John, I did talk about your shark shirt, by the way, just to let you know. But anyway, and so, this is for everybody. And then what was funny, though, is that I had people come up to me at the little after event saying, like, you said it was for anybody, but I don't know if you mean me because I'm really shy or I'm really quiet. And I was like, no, I do mean you. Like, and don't worry if you feel you're quiet. Like John and I, we can make the quietest person not quiet. I promise you, we can help you find something to talk about, right? But, and not to plug that for any women that might be listening right now, but it is true that I think a lot of times we feel like they don't mean me. We're not good enough. We're not important enough. I'm not going to talk about something specific enough. So that's why we want to be.
And that's a huge subconscious thing, right?
Yeah.
You flip that on its head. It definitely is a subconscious thing. Am I like, for instance, when we did International Women's Day, like my wife was on that, and she was like, "Really? Do you really want me on there?" I was like, "Yes, I really want you on there. You've got something to say." And we're going. It's not exactly the same, but we're going through something similar with our 7-year-old daughter at the moment, where she struggles to get her words out. And me and Katie are always saying to her, what you say is important, and give her the space to say what she needs to say. Otherwise she might feel like I can't say what I want to say.
I've got a great example of this. Sorry to interject.
Yeah,
I know
sure.
I'm conscious of time, but Heather was a part of a panel at the user group we were talking, and there was a woman who spoke up that coincidentally works at Capgemini now, about her transition from career. Like she was in a different career, come to this one, and how she did it before. I got speaking to her afterwards. So I said, like, your journey is a great journey. Like, would
Who
you
is
ever
that?
consider doing? I can't remember her name.
Okay.
Ariana, I want to say now, I've probably butchered her name live, and I'm going to feel even worse. But she was like, well, what talk would I give? Like, I'm new to the space. What would I do? And it's like, your journey, like, talks are basically, and how I always do this, like, I have the same experience as a lot of people in Power BI, but I have my personal experience of Power BI that is different from other people's. The customers I've had, the colleagues I've had, that journey might resonate with a few people. Like, I've just got my feedback from my talk the other day, and lots of people are on there saying how I did. I want to speak to the people who didn't give feedback, who probably felt like, I didn't really engage with him. I didn't really learn from him.
Yeah.
I didn't connect.
Yes, exactly.
And that's the thing with feedback, isn't it? Like, I think feedback is quite polarizing. Like, if you look at TripAdvisor, for example, you don't get many places that are in the middle. You're either at the top end or you're at the bottom end. It's like a reverse bell curve. And I think that's the same with feedback. You either get really good feedback or you get no feedback, and they're not giving you any feedback because they don't want to be perceived as maybe I'm being a bit confrontational with that feedback potentially.
I want confrontational feedback. If you tell me,
Yeah,
Duncan,
right.
when you were rabbiting on, and I made a joke very early on in my talk, was that they always tell you to imagine everyone naked. And I'm like, Ian was sat there. I'm like, I've seen that man naked and I do not want that right now. Like, that was my joke to set the tone
Yes.
for it. Obviously, I haven't seen him naked. Like, it's a joke. I like hearing mine. I like it to be interactive. I do crowd work with the people. Like, I did a bit where, like, because mine was a live demo and the plinth was a little bit small for me, I not put my mouse on the wall, just using the wall as a mouse pad. Like, I'm
Yeah, I
joking
love
around and
it.
doing things like that.
Right.
But some people might find that intimidating and just want the tech side of things. They might want to really granular, like, this is how you do it, this is how you do it. They want it as an instructional video. I can't do that. My brain's not worked that way.
Yep.
I want to sell it. I want it to be fun. I'm just as much nervous as they probably are even attending the event. So there's that. Yes. Sorry, John sent me the name, and yes, that's the person's name. So if you want to pronounce it, that'd be great, John, because I can't.
I know. So Ariane Donahue, her name is.
Yes.
And I work there a little bit at CAP. So I'm going to reach out to her and ask her to be on the podcast.
I talked to a few people at CAP who really like you, John, just to let you know. That is something that I noticed when I was at the user group is, is you have a lot of fans. Nobody said anything negative about you either, although they would be kind of silly to say it to me because I would totally say something, but very positive. You're well loved. Is it time? Is it time for the question, John?
It is, yeah.
Okay, can I slightly interject again first? Sorry.
Yeah.
Talking about being asked and putting yourself forward, I myself am ADHD. I know we all talk about ADHD and autism. Rejection sensitivity or dysphoria.
Woo!
Yes.
Yep. Submitting to conferences to get a blank email to say, no, you're not coming.
Oh
just
my
like,
gosh.
It's the hard. And another point out, not that I'm bitter, because I'm not bitter because it happens. I applied to be Microsoft MVP last November. I was nominated, blah. The rejection is 3 lines long and gives me nothing. There is nothing to work on. There is nothing positive in that email. I'm very big for the sandwich message. Say something good about the person, give them the bad news, end it on a good note.
Yeah.
This works for everyone, but for ADHD people, they get 2 positives to 1 negative, so they are not being picked on.
We have to have this.
Yeah.
And just, sorry, uncomfortable.
No. I agree with
you.
you. I agree with you. And I don't particularly care who's listening, but like MVP stuff, like I applied for that. I got nominated twice, failed twice. And both times was, just the feedback was just
it's devastating.
And I'm just like, it's not devastating, but I just like you, Duncan, get that email and it's like, okay, so what do I need to work on to achieve that? And actually that's moved me away from that space now. It's not something that I'm chasing anymore. That's all I got to say on that one.
Okay, wait. Since we're all ADHD, I get to add one more bit here. Because when you're talking about feedback or the lack thereof, I've had to really learn, and this came when I was a trainer, right? Because as a trainer, we always get feedback, and then they say feedback is a gift, but sometimes you get that gift and the person didn't realize it's not something that you didn't need or that's not going to help you, right? So you just kind of accept it and set it aside. I got feedback on a non-community engagement a few weeks ago, probably a few months now, and I haven't ever said this out loud because it's been taking me this long to process it. Where somebody's feedback, they rated me 1 star and was like, the presenter should stop talking about her mental illness all the time. And I was like, mental illness? WTF are they talking about? And then it was like, oh, ADHD. Because I'm very open about ADHD, which is not a mental illness, by the way. It's a neurological disorder. Not that there's anything wrong with mental illness either. But I say that on purpose for a couple of things. Number one, it was an accessibility discussion, and I like to talk about how to make things accessible for people like me with ADHD. But number two, I need to give my audience permission to interrupt me, pull me back to the topic, or do whatever they need to do because I do have ADHD, and I don't want somebody to say, like, Heather's gone off the golf course here. We need to bring her back in. Like do it.
Yeah.
It's fine. But it hurt me so much that this person would say that to me because and they didn't say it to me. They said it anonymously in a survey, right? But I took it as this, like, so personal on so many levels where I'm like,
and I think that's okay, actually, to feel like that. I
Oh, it
don't
was
think that
awful.
I don't think that's actually RSD. I think that's you being a human and the other person not being one or not being a good one.
AI told me that. AI told me because I did put it through AI. So why can't I let this go? AI, tell me why I can't let this go. And they said because it was a hurtful thing to you. And
Yeah.
a person without ADHD would have probably felt a similar way
Yeah.
had that happened to them. And, and so when we talk about feedback, lack thereof, feedback that hurts your feelings, just because it's feedback doesn't mean it's true. It doesn't mean we have to change anything about ourselves because I am now at a point where I'm like, you know what I'm not going to do? I'm not going to stop talking about my ADHD and I'm not going
Yeah.
to stop
Right.
normalizing it. And it's not going to stop being a part of what I do. And that means that sometimes people are not going to want to hear me talk. They're going to be like, I don't want to hear about her ADHD. And that's
Then
okay.
they make a choice rather than giving feedback like that. So
Thank you, John. Thank you guys for being part of my healing moment and saying the shit out loud that I couldn't do.
no, that's and to the person, to anyone who's watching this, if that was you, that's not very nice feedback.
Aw,
Anyway,
thank you, John.
Heather, go for it.
All right, here we go. Duncan,
Mm-hmm.
when was the last time you felt uncomfortable either in or outside of work? How did you get through it? What did you learn? And what could you be better prepared for the next time?
God, I've got so many examples, and I always get so awkward with this because some of it's just very obvious to other people. Sometimes it's not. The most awkward thing. God. There's this. I want to go for a work one, but the last awkward one was actually at the Manchester User Group when my hotel or the place I was staying said that I hadn't put the keys back, and I'm like, bloody well have. Like, I generally have. Like, I was on the phone this morning when I was putting the keys away, and I told the other person I was then putting the keys away, and I went back to the property and was like, I definitely put the keys in. It's like, you didn't, you have to pay me. And I was so ridiculously uncomfortable because like, there's the first thing, and I struggle with this the most of all, self-doubt. Like, am I going a little bit crazy? Like,
Yeah.
we talk about mental health, so like, neurodivergency-wise, ADHD and autism, but like my mental health, I talk about it in private circles, and sometimes my mental health is not the best. Like, I'm looking at several things. I've been on antidepressants for longer than I haven't been on antidepressants for most of my life. A lot of things. So the whole feeling of not feeling sane is really difficult for me. And then like, I know in my head, I definitely put the keys back, and they're just looking for a little bit of money. Like, they just want me to do, because they ask for a bank transfer. It's like, oh, so we're not going through the website that I booked through or doing anything else like this. They just want to get people to ring them and say, hey, you didn't leave the keys, you have to pay for it. And then people be like, oh, okay, I'll pay. Like, they're purposefully putting the uncomfortable on the other person, which is a shitty way of selling or getting
that's
money, but
nice.
it works.
I think you should name and shame who these people are.
No, I can't do that in a public forum. That's slander. No, I've emailed the provider, like, where they're booked through and done the right thing. But they've even got a camera there. So I've asked, and because I know my own security laws, for GDPR, if there is an image of me, they have to provide it. So I've asked for it. I've asked for the video of me putting the key in the lockbox in the morning, which when they provide it, I will get my money back. And if they say, oh, no, we don't happen to have that one, then I'm going to call them out.
Yeah.
But it's uncomfortable. It is. And then that kind of like, I'd just given my talk at the user group, so I was sweating adrenaline anyway. Like, I was nervous as hell. Like,
Yes.
and then I brushed over to do this, and I was just like, this is not. And for me personally, that sort of thing can last for hours. Like, I didn't feel then again comfortable pretty much until the event was over. I spoke to lots of people, I did lots of things, but I was constantly in the back of my head like, did I leave the keys there? Did I not leave the keys there? And I'm like, I know I didn't. I've checked my car, I've checked my bag. I didn't just like take them outside and be like, I don't want this anymore. It's going on the floor. Like, I didn't do. And it plays on my mind constantly. And I'm still thinking about it now. Like, that's the one.
And
but I promise you a work one, right?
Is it, do you think it's playing on your mind because you are doubting yourself maybe like 1 or 2% that maybe I didn't, but you know you did? Do you know what I mean? Because I know you obviously did, but I know
I'm more sure than anything that I did do it.
Yeah.
I'm sad that there are people that would do that to other people, because now I'm thinking like, how many other people has he done this to?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
this is John, we've talked about this, that neurodivergent sense of justice. When we think
Yes.
something is wrong or unfair, we're like, we are going to fight the system. You can't do this to people, right?
Like, I want to find that feedback person, and I want to find out where Duncan was staying. I'm going to go and see. Like, yeah, and I can feel it. Like it's like pouring out of me.
So
Yes.
that sense of justice isn't spoken about enough, especially in neurodivergency. Yes, there is a
Yeah.
strong moral obligation to
Yes.
do what is right.
Yeah.
But the one thing we talk about the very least is symptom regression when we get confirmed diagnosis. I've been diagnosed since I was a child, so mine's slightly differently. John, you've recently been diagnosed.
Yeah.
Did your symptoms get worse when you were diagnosed?
Yeah.
And it's because
RSD was through the roof.
And a lot of people don't understand why this is, and that is because you are accepting of who you are.
Yes.
There are things you've been masking and hiding about yourself because you weren't diagnosed and you weren't able to say, I struggle with this because my brain works this way.
Yes.
Before, you were like, I struggle with this because I'm not normal, I need to hide it.
Yeah. And so that's exactly what's happening with my daughter at the moment. I've had this conversation with my daughter where, like, she's 9, and I know I talk about my daughters quite a lot on here, so sorry about that, everyone else. Bye-bye if you don't want to listen. But
Don't be sorry.
she's definitely, I mean, 100%, she's got ADHD. I've been fighting with the doctor to get her referred to a right to choose provider, which has finally happened. And unfortunately, the conversation where I'd complained to the doctor and they were ringing me back to kind of follow up on that complaint happened while I was with her. So she knew what was going on. And ever since then, she is going through this process of realizing, oh, that's why I get frustrated, or that's why I get overwhelmed, or that's why, and she's only 9, but she's smart, she's switched on, and she will go up to her room, and it's quite a difficult time at the moment because I'm trying to explain to her that I don't want her to have 44 years of me thinking I was wrong, or me thinking my brain wasn't right, for her to not have that opportunity right from the beginning. So that's the bit that I'm trying to get across to her, but it is difficult for a 9-year-old. That's hard to understand.
It's for me because I think we talked a little bit about this, Duncan, about did it get worse when I get diagnosed? In some ways, I was so much kinder to myself because I'd had RSD forever. And that's actually what led me to seek the diagnosis in my 40s, was because I read about RSD and I was like, holy shit. And I remember really going to this therapist. I was trying therapy. I was trying to fix my ADHD through therapy because I just thought I was crazy, right? And the therapist said, Heather, what is your goal today? And I said, I want to have a conversation with my boss without crying. And that was like literally what my goal was, because anytime I was in a situation where I felt like somebody could reject me, I was so emotional, right? So what that diagnosis did for me was, this is why when I used to get in trouble in school for talking to everybody because I finished my tests first and I was bored. And so why not just chat with everybody else, right? And I've been in trouble with that since I was really little. And people who would give me such a bad time, you're so smart, Heather, why don't you just finish something? Well, because it's only interesting in the beginning. It's not interesting at the end, right? That's why I don't finish it. And like all of these things in my life that suddenly just made sense. And then I was able to now, I got my diagnosis in America. I moved to the UK, which, by the way, if I was not ADHD, would I have like done everything I did to end up in this marriage in a new country and all that? I don't know. Part of that was my like dopamine seeking, right? But I came to the UK and now I knew how to work with it, and I could be so much more honest with people. Here's what I'm bad at. Here's where I need support. Here's where I need to be successful. And I found this role that lets me do all of the things I'm really good at and give me support on the stuff that I need, which I couldn't have done before diagnosis. I would have just sat there and tried to do all the stuff I was bad at and got told off every week for not doing my time sheets or missing a piece of admin, which I still kind of get told off for, but at least they know that they can give me a reminder.
And it's funny that we all get together in this kind of community, right? Because I met Duncan for the first time in Southampton. No, Farnborough, yeah. And like straight away, I was like, Jesus, I love this dude. Like instantly.
We're family.
Instant connection. Yeah. And we quite often text each other, love you, dude, just randomly, just checking in on each other. And that's what I love about all of this. Yeah. And I feel at home for the first time in quite a very long time, actually, which is nice.
So there's a joke that I have with someone about there was someone who was very negative in my life that said something very horrible about my progression in the community. They were much like your fake internet friends is how they describe people I interact with.
Oh
And
my
I have,
gosh.
yeah, so I have an interaction with someone where we make a joke about that
Yeah,
quite often.
it's
Yeah,
very big.
that. So I have a joke that I have with someone, and it's like every time I meet someone, she's like, "Oh, you're running out of fake friends now. You're getting real ones." Like, and she's really positive about it and like really confirming, and it's lovely. But yeah, and it's, sorry, I digress, and I'm gonna get emotional. I get emotional too quick.
But it is
Well-
our friends. When I first met John in person, and we'd already talked and like just really connected, right? But then when I first met him
Yeah.
in person, like, believe me, I normally don't walk up to people who look gigantic next to me and give them a big old hug when we've never met before. But I was just like, it was just so safe, wasn't it? You know,
Yeah.
and
That's great.
this is like we all, I can, I can, I feel so safe with people in the ADHD community. When I told people I got diagnosed, everybody knew but me, you guys. They were like,
Yeah,
"Oh,
yeah.
yeah, Heather." And
Yeah,
I was like,
like,
"Wait,
right.
what?" They were like, "I thought you knew." And I was like, "Oh, no, I didn't." But apparently everybody else did, right? And then because you're like, why are all my friends ADHD or autistic? My husband's autistic. I'm probably ADHD, right? Because I got some autistic stuff going on there. And so, and then you realize that because we all let each other be who we are. We let
Yes,
each other be
right.
ourselves. So we all feel very safe in this space where, I could say to my husband, I can get really overwhelmed and be snappy. And then later be like, I am so sorry. I was overwhelmed. He's like, of course you were overwhelmed. Why are you apologizing? I asked you a question while you're trying to do 50 other things. That's why you were snappy. And I'm like, how do you know this? How
Oh,
do you get
he's
me?
awesome.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
and my wife's the same. Like she's amazing and really
He is
understands it.
amazing.
Yeah, she's coming to the East of England Power Platform Summit, which
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to. So I think that's about it for today. Duncan, really appreciate you being on as a guest, and I also, massively appreciate all the stuff that you are doing in the East of England Power Platform Summit and how difficult at times that's been. But we're getting there, and you're getting there, and you're doing a great job, mate. And lovely Heather, as always, it's always great to co-host with you, sister from
Love
another
you
mister, and all
guys
that jazz.
all the time.
So, if you want to be on the podcast, and I will do my best actually to start reaching out to some influential women that I know in the community and asking them directly if they want to be on there, if they want to be on the podcast. I will make a note and actually make a point of doing that. But if you want to be on the podcast, there will be some details in the show notes that you'll see at the end of this or in the YouTube notes. Thank you very much for coming, Duncan. As always, love you, buddy.
Thanks for
All
having
right,
me.
man. And see you later, Heather. Thank you very much as well.
Love you both. You're
All right.
amazing.
Yes, love you all, everyone.
All right.
Love you
Love
all,
you, love
everyone.
you.
Those are words. Yeah. Bye.
Yeah, thanks, everybody.